let's take you live to Chris Menzies. The New South Wales Premier has just been commenting on these neo-Nazi protests at the weekend. He's spoken about needing to make sure the law is fit for purpose because these neo-Nazi protests seem to have got around the Nazi symbol law. Let's have a quick listen in on this.
With Palestinian Action Group organisers for hundreds and hundreds of rallies in Sydney. And that's been the case virtually every single weekend now for 2 years. New South Wales Police have worked with organisers who want to hold protests in Sydney. Now, if they'd approved none of them, then I would understand the criticism, but I think it's unfair to suggest that none of that has happened. The second point here is a lot of those activists have been incredibly strong about rejecting the government's hate speech laws, and now they're suggesting that we should be throwing the book using the exact same laws. So there's got to be a double standard here. This proves, in my view, that letting anti-Semitism and racism out of the bag in any context metastasises in the community and results in more division and racism, not less. Not less. So the hate speech laws that we've pursued in the New South Wales Parliament, we believe are important and send a clear message that we are not going to stand for this kind of hatred in our community, and we're going to take steps to get in the way of it and disrupt it. Sorry, I'm going to go around. Yep.
Premier, what will you do to prevent White Australia or the NSN from registering as a political party ahead of the next state election?
Yeah, look, I'm going to take that on notice. That's not specifically up to me. Obviously, the Electoral Commissioner has a role in relation to the registration of political parties, and we have to work out whether it breaches hate speech laws and laws designed to stop political or racial divisions and hatred in our community. But I want to take that on notice.
Personal view, though?
Well, my personal view is obviously I'm a politician associated with a political party on the centre-left, and that's my personal view and my political view. I would never want to be associated with these terrible people. I mean, I'll just give you an example. As abhorrent as it is to have a racial rally on the streets of Sydney, listen to what they said. In their speeches on Saturday, they said it was the Anzac legacy to stand up for their form of fascism and hatred. The truth of the matter is Anzacs fought the Nazis. They weren't in league with them. They are the people that were the focus of the bravery and, in many cases, the deaths associated with Australian servicemen and women who put their lives on the line to protect democracy and fight fascism. And we just can't let this ahistorical, this anti-history be spread in our public forums or in civic life in New South Wales.
Okay, Nazis protesting.
Yeah, no, look, I think it's important to note, I'm not going to add to the pile-on when it comes to New South Wales Police. This is a very difficult job. They've kept the public safe for a long period of time over the last 2 years. And in many cases, they have to make a split-second decision about whether someone has verged from free speech to hate speech in real time. Now, they've said, New South Wales Police have said, that they'll be investigating what was said and what was done at the event on Saturday. But just to clear up the confusion, I want to make sure that there's big, bright lines to help police to keep the public safe, and also to send a message that you should be free of intimidation, hatred and vilification on the basis of your religion in a city like Sydney.
I mean, we've seen the pictures of
female politicians who copped abuse from this group, condemning the protest on Saturday. What do you say to your female colleagues?
Well, look, I mean, this is another example of what particularly women in public life have to put up with. You've got, in some cases, utter cowards that use vile, racist and often dangerous rhetoric to target them in particular. I'm thinking of them both today, but this is, unfortunately, this is not an isolated event. This routinely happens when you've got bigoted and violent people that use social media to try and threaten and intimidate public officials. My hat's off to both of them. The fact that they're prepared to stand up, put their views, put their beliefs, stand up for civic life in New South Wales. It's what the government asked of everybody on the weekend, that this isn't just a legislative response, it's not just a parliamentary response, it's not just us introducing new laws. Civic society has to stand up against neo-Nazis in our community. Those politicians did exactly that. I'm appalled that they were subject to that kind of abuse, and we stand in solidarity with them today.
I mean, we've seen pictures of police standing by during Saturday protests that unfolded. Police didn't hesitate to use
spray licensed protesters also police behaviour that's some court sittings and early hours of operations this year. Is there a double standard when it comes to the way that these protesters are released?
No, and I mean, from the government's perspective, it's important to note, firstly, that literally hundreds of those protests have been both authorised and managed with New South Wales Police going back 2 years. It's not as if they've been ruled out. What we're talking about with the Nazis is saying, no, you can't even have a protest in Sydney, that we're going to develop laws to target you and ensure that you can't spew that racial hatred on the streets of Sydney. I mean, you would understand... Well, hang on, I'm going to finish. Don't you think I should be able to finish, surely? In those circumstances, I don't think it's reasonable to suggest that that police have in some ways stopped or attempting to stop or introducing legislation to stop, for example, Palestinian activists. They're not. And to suggest that we are is counterfactual. That's not our view. That's not the point we're trying to make today, and that's not our intentions when it comes to legislation. James.
If the laws work well, you've just explained half what I want to say, but you realise, as terrible as what we saw on the weekend, it's difficult for police to make a live decision on the spot when they're probably outnumbered outside Macquarie Street about who's breaking the law in regards to hate speech or not. I mean, what do you expect?
OK, we're going to leave that there, but it was worth listening to Chris Minns on this very important issue, neo-Nazi protests at the weekend. He's now looking to see if these anti-neo-Nazi laws, these hate symbol laws in New South Wales, are now fit for purpose. He was defensive of the police as well, because, as he said, they do a very difficult job. In the end, he wants to stop these kinds of this hate speech on the streets of Sydney and more broadly in New South Wales. He's going to look into it. He also, had to address this issue that since those Nazi protests, there's been 2 female politicians that have been subject to threats of rape and death. Let's think about that for a moment. So this is the world we're living in at the moment. There is no world in which Chris Minns, the New South Wales Premier, or any of us want to accept that. So it's an ugly side of Sydney that we saw over the weekend, and one that many people don't want to see repeated again, including the police. So Chris Minns is going to go away and look at the gaps, perhaps, in legislation, see if those can be tightened up.